So Ukraine are like the everyday people, yeah?
Yeah.
Trump is like the landlord,
Yeah.
yeah? Putin is like the council.
Yeah.
Then what is the EU then in this situation? Would be like the solicitors.
Yeah.
So Trump is the landlord. You should be grateful, right? You should be grateful for what we give you.
Yeah.
Putin is like the council. You can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this in your land, you can't do that on your land, you can't do this in your house. Oh, by the way, we want something. And then the landlord, also, we want something. You've got Ukrainians as the everyday people.
Yeah.
If we minus the cannon fodder and all of the weaponry in it.
Yeah.
And then we've got the solicitors that are like, we should be able to let them have their freedom, We should be allowed to let them do this and do that. But they are not grateful enough. We gave them a piece of land that this is this, this, and this. I'm not saying that it is all like that, but and then you've got Putin that's like, well, hang on a minute, we need to establish some ground rules here first. I also want a tax. I mean, I want something from this, and you can't do this, can't do this, can't do that. Man, this whole situation is no different to how people are on their land. Because here, you can't do anything. You want to be a free person in this nation? Forget it. Buy a piece of land, you're only allowed to look at it. Are you allowed to go and stay there? No, you're only allowed to stay there for less than, what was it? 12 days, something like that?
Something like that. You cannot even over.
You're not even allowed. You're not.
Summer holidays.
Yeah, you can't go there over the summer holidays and just live in your area. You can't put a shed there. You can't erect anything. You're not allowed to do anything with your land that you bought. Just sit there and watch it. Because you are dictated to. Do you know what? The council have made themselves a living out of dictating. They tell us it's for the police force and it pays for this. But then if you look at any other nation, they still have a police force and it is still being paid for in a different way. We've got to have freedom and we've got to have this and we've got to have that. So yeah, no, I think that everyday people in Britain feel for Ukrainians. They get what's going on here. But it's weird when you take it out of context because you've got to remove the fear of it. War, right? Because, you would never be allowed to sort of go to war to protect your land here. Which would be the war on the council, right? So, there would be a lot of that. And then, you communism. No, wait, dictators. And you've got another one saying, you should be grateful for what we gave you. Look at what we give you. Well, we bought it. Yeah, but look at what we give you, though. It just turns off the fear mindset, to be able to look at it without sort of like, oh my God, sort of thing, It's terrible that people are in this situation, but when you look at it, it's like an inner structure that we have here. But it's like an outer structure. Far more severity on it because of the casualties and stuff, which is terrible, but we got the same thing here. But the only difference is here you've got no way to defend yourself from it. No way at all to defend yourself from that type of dictatorship. And if you rent a house, it's far worse. The council tell you what you can and can't do. They prance around looking for fault. You can't do that. You're not allowed to build a fence. You can't have solar panels. You're not allowed to have a wind turbine. You can't do this. You can't do that. But when it comes to tax, give it. So it is very much a dictatorship inside a democracy, this is classed as a democracy. It really isn't. This is no way near a democracy. Way too many rules. Yet, and why do I compare this to the world stage? Because you have international law. If everyone's following international law, it's no different to everyone here is following the law. So then why do you need dictator rules inside of those laws?
Someone to collect money for themselves.
Well, is it to collect money, or is it because they've made a living out of inserting their dominance over people and dominating individuals?
Yeah, that's what they may live in.
They're not on farmlands telling them they can't have solar panels or they can't have wind turbines, but in everyday people's homes, you can't have it because this might not be this, and this. You're not allowed to erect a shed in your garden. Even if you buy a house, you've got to get some level of ask the permission. Although we don't see it here because some houses have the fences all the way around their property. They've got 2 sheds that are massive.
Yeah.
But yet, if you were to do that in your house and you're not really much of someone, you'll be told to take it down. And then does this stop someone with land saying, you know what, I'll charge you lot of rent to come stay here. It will be a fraction of the price as long as you don't mind living in here. We also got control over RV parks here. Do you know how many mobile homes are being basically left to rot because you're only allowed to keep a mobile home on a land for X amount of years, and then I think it's the 10-year rule it's called. If it's older than 10 years, it then gets put to this other place where people sell it. And that's why they're so cheap. But they don't tell you that you can't put this on any mobile home. You are not allowed to live in a mobile home, but yet we've got a housing crisis. So if we had not this with council, people who had land would take these mobile homes. They wouldn't care about how old they were. And then they would be put on the land, and people would charge a rent that would be so much more cheaper than houses, because they're extortionate. They would be cheaper, and therefore they can't have that. Business owners can't have it, so they lobby. They don't just lobby, but they also get jobs inside councils and then start dictating. So here our dictators are the council and businesses. And then they got to work for other businesses in order to keep the money maxed out at houses. Yeah, very interesting. This, but not interesting actually. It's horrible to live in the middle of that. So, yeah, I feel for Ukrainians to live in that. I get it. I really do. But we're living in it too. But let's hope if Ukraine are able to secure their land and protect it, that they don't start becoming dictators inside their own land and erecting councils and these, you know, just absolutely ridiculous acts and statutes that tell the people of Ukraine what they can and can't do inside their own land if they buy it. It's terrible. It is absolutely terrible. It's not a nice existence to live in that. And I think this is what really angers people here in the UK. It does. It's all okay as long as you're acting human. You're playing human. You're being a good boy, and you're out to work and back home again. But as soon as you start to build something, as soon as you start to put solar panels in, as soon as you start to put wind turbines in, they'll come out and they'll tell you that you're not allowed to do it. You must ask permission. Hang on a minute, I rent it. You must do this. And then look at the tenancy agreement with all the rules that are in there. That you will not do this, you will not do that, you will not do that. And some of it doesn't even stick with what law is. So if they try to evict you for not sticking to the tenancy agreement, some of it doesn't even get pushed through the courts. Because the courts are like, that's not a law. So we have dictators. We got dictator landlords, corporations, housing associations. They dictate to the people what to do. They dictate to them what they are going to do in their property. They take up all the roof space with their solar panels. And they don't give you any energy from that, but you're paying out of your rent to have those solar panels under the guise of cheap energy, but you're not getting any cheap energy. They can't prove what energy you're making off of that.
Yeah, they mislead you with the grade that it's, let's say, C because of the solar panels, but it doesn't go into...
Yeah, but if that energy is not going into the grid, then you've been missold your property. And what's more, that's why they tell all of the landlords to get solar panels, so that they can make money off of you. And then it stops you from putting any of your own solar panels on there, where you would be making money for yourself. You see, nothing's about you here. Let's just hope that Ukraine doesn't turn out to be this way. And that you rid communism and every single word of it. Not communism, dictatorship. And you literally do remove all of dictatorship. It's a bit of a spit in the face that here Britons went to war because of a dictator in past Nazi Germany, and yet we've got them here in our own nation. Now I think that that's an absolute disappointment, and it's actually really shameful here. That is a lack of respect to all the people that laid down their lives. That's horrible. It's trampling all over the lives that were lost. Because, you know, we lost it. You know, we had to go because of this stuff, this dictator and all of this sort of stuff. But we got it here. We got it from landlords. We got it from the council. You know, if we've got laws, we understand those. But all of this stuff that's outside the law, which is control. You will not do this. You will not do that. You are responsible for all the people inside your house. Could you imagine that? Going to court and saying, hey, I'm not responsible for my actions, judge. Why not? It's their fault. They made me do it. And the judge will say, no, this is all on you. But when it comes to your house and under a dictator, you are responsible for everybody else's behavior inside your house. Are you allowed to control people? It's in the law. You are not allowed to control anyone. So I have to control someone or I become responsible for someone. Can you believe that? Inside your tenancy, it's written in black and white that you are in control of everybody in your property and that you are responsible for the people in your property. So that means any strangers that come into your property and do a load of stuff, you'll be responsible for it. Anyone comes into your garden and starts committing crime, you are responsible for it as the tenant. They will hold you responsible for it. In their unregulated law. Because again, it's a dictator. And we have got many of them. So, you know, as much as this whole thing with Ukraine can get sorted, it would be nice that Keir Starmer's ready for the fight. And hopefully he will come back and he will liberate Britons from the dictatorship from the council, from the dictatorship of these housing associations, private landlords. And that he really liberates people here. Because, you know, if you've got money for this in another nation, you've got money for it in your own. And that means in any other nation as well, that they really then start to come down on these dictators. Rather than singling some out, we need to start looking at them more. And whilst that drumbeat is there, let's start going at the not communist dictators in our nation. Because apparently, fairness, equality. Interesting, really, isn't it? It's not interesting, but when you look at it for what it is, that is dictatorship. And they are basically saying that they don't listen to the law, they do the opposite to it. So, yeah. So while it's there, don't you feel a change will be coming in because these individuals don't like dictators? So hopefully they'll start to come at them inside the nation as well. Because, you know, here in the West, we say no. Yeah.